Thank you, Duncan. So thank you for the opportunity to speak at the hearings for the Treaty of Waitangi Principles Bill. I've kept my submission short and sweet, so time for questions. Call is Davies Toko Ingoa. I'm the Chief Executive of SociaLink, Te Whānau Pāpori, an umbrella peak body for the social and community sector in the Western Bay of Plenty. We build the capability of for-purpose organisations, we facilitate collaboration, as well as give a voice to the sector on issues of relevance to them, such as this bill. Our first main point, SociaLink fully opposes the Treaty Principles Bill and urges that it be abandoned before the second reading. We also recommend that legislation introduced to remove reference to the Treaty of Waitangi and legislation, policy and regulations is stopped, and where it has occurred, it is retracted. We believe the bill undermines Māori rights, autonomy and tēnā rangatiratanga. Removing treaty references from legislation is socially divisive, not evidence-based, and lacks consultation with Māori. The bill was drafted without consultation with one of the two Te Tiriti partners, breaching the principles of partnership and the Crown's good faith obligations. Our second main point is about the negative impact on the social and community sectors. The bill will reverse progress made in honouring Te Tiriti within social health and community services. These sectors are crucial to social cohesion. They are the invisible but vital glue that brings communities together. As a sector committed to and working to advance social cohesion, this bill is both disappointing and undermining of tangata whenua and tangata tiriti efforts to grow relationships between communities. Government relies on these sectors, yet the bill would weaken the sector's ability to deliver effective services with, by and to Māori. Thirdly, we see Te Tiriti as a foundation for equity. Many tangata tiriti organisations have worked for decades to understand and uphold Te Tiriti. The bill erases the recognition of Māori as a distinct treaty partner, reducing them to individuals rather than collective iwi and hapu with tēnā rangatiratanga, with the exception of rights agreed under the 1975 Treaty Act. It ignores historical injustices such as colonisation, racism and economic disparities that impact Māori today. Lastly, we see harmful consequences from the bill, and that the bill's focus is on individual rights and overlooks structural inequities that need to be addressed. Culturally responsive services such as kaupapa Māori health and social services are critical for positive outcomes, and this bill threatens their existence. In conclusion, SociaLink urges that the bill does not proceed, as it is harmful to Māori, the community sector, and efforts towards equity and social cohesion. Thank you, and I welcome any questions.
Well, Kia ora, thank you for that, and thank you for leaving a lot of time for questions. We've got one from Takata Ferris.
Tēnā koe hoa, and thank you for your work and your submission. One of the things that the Tiriti conversation needs in a Aotearoa is clarity. And so I wonder if you might consider that just quite simply in the text of Te Tiriti o Waitangi, the treaty is being proposed to He Whakamenenga, to the Confederation of Chiefs, who were a internationally declared sovereign entity representing Aotearoa New Zealand. So if things like that can become clearer in the discourse of Te Tiriti o Waitangi, do you think that that would lead to a better future for all people in Aotearoa?
I think clarity certainly would help for everyone, so things can be interpreted accurately as they were meant to be at the time.
All right, Joe, thanks for that. And let's go to Joseph Mooney.
Well, thank you, and thank you, Liz, for that submission. Look, just in your submission, you were concerned about the emphasis on individuals. And I'm curious about this because Article 2 in the bill doesn't specify that, but if you look at Article 2 of the Tiriti, it specifically guarantees tino rangatiratanga to kina rangatira, the chiefs, kina hapu to the tribes, and to kina tangata katoa Ni Te Rani, all of the individuals. So I'm interested, what is your thinking on that aspect of Article 2 of the Tiriti?
I think Te Tiriti was an agreement with iwi and hapu, and to reduce it down to individuals is a misconception of what was intended. And also I think it becomes very much focused on individualism, and it also then masks structural inequities. And it also assumes that everyone is the same, we're all equal, and we're not. We are not brought into this world equal, unfortunately. So I think that's where it's really quite dangerous.
Just a supplementary, if I could, Chair. Just that, what does the guarantee of tino rangatiratanga to kina tangata katoa Ni Te Rani mean to you?
It gives them mana motahaki self-determination, autonomy over their resources, over their people.
And does that extend, would you accept that extends to the rangatira, to the hapu, and to kina tangata katoa?
I would.
All right, let's go to Steve Abel. Thanks, Joseph.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you for your submission. You talk about the importance of social cohesion, which relies on a recognition of the dignity of people and the views of people and their basic right to self-determination. And you pretty clearly articulated that when we have inbuilt inequities, you can't address them by treating everybody as equal, because that just affirms and locks in those inequities. Can you expand on how harmful it is to our social cohesion when we don't recognise the right to people's autonomy?
So I think this bill has been incredibly divisive, which is not what we need at the moment. There's enough divisiveness and misinformation occurring. I believe that social cohesion is fundamental to operating society and community, and where this sort of bill is sort of threatening that. which is hugely concerning. Once you start having reduced social cohesion, you're seeing more crime in communities, more mental health issues. It's just absolutely fundamental to our community's health. So things like this bill is really quite dangerous to our communities. And it doesn't support the autonomy of Māori, in my view.
Kia ora. Thank you for that. All right, I think we're done. So thank you ever so much for your submission. And thank you for being generous with the time for questions. It's a really helpful thing to do. So kia ora for that. Thanks, listen. Thanks for your work in Tauranga.
Kia ora.
And I have to be honest, that was actually, I'd say, a much more constructive submission.
Yeah, I've been watching the questions that come from Joseph Mooney, the MP. I think he's from National, right?
Yes, he is, yes.
And actually, his questions are actually really, really quite good. And they're quite pointed. I mean, it shows me that he's got a reasonable, good grasp and understanding of the treaty itself, the historic nature of it. He understands the interplay between He Whakaputanga, which was signed in 1835, and the treaty in 1840. So on that basis, I think the questioning is really good. Interesting that the first submitter didn't really want to take questions. The second, and this comes to my point about preparedness, the second submitter wanted to allow time for questions, unafraid of being asked questions. I also think her answer in respect of, well, okay, but what does, say, for example, Tino Rero Tanga mean? She said, oh, look, it is about, and these are not her words exactly, of course, about mana motahaki, about self-determination over things such as their resources, etc., etc., etc. And we know that if Māori have self-determination over their resources, they can do big things, such as, the fisheries quota has obviously indicated over many years. And the fact that the Māori economy has grown to more than $50 billion is an example of that. So, yeah, it's been really interesting to watch Joseph Mooney in particular, because I know everyone will think, he's on the right, Matt. You can't really like what somebody's saying on the right. Can I also say the other committee, or the main committee, being chaired by James Meagher?
Yeah.
I did watch one interaction that he had with Willie Jackson the other week, and I've been watching James as well chair that part of the select committee, the main committee, and he's given respect, time, and deference to those wanting to put their cases on both sides.
I find James a very good chair to deal with. I've been in front of two select committees in front of him. I also heard through the grapevine he was asking where I was for Treaty Principles Bill. I opted personally not to put in an oral submission, so I could allow other people have their oral submissions to get forward, because of the fact that it's just basically, it's not easy to sit down there and try and do it. So I'll put my submissions on other things. To be honest, I'd rather be putting submissions for electoral law or something like that sort of thing, because that's more where the field lies. But it's interesting that I heard that he was wondering if I was actually going to submit, because he's always found my sort of submissions very interesting, which I think other select committees are now starting to learn. One of the things I do think, like what you said earlier about the questions, like I've not, Duncan's the first chair that I've seen trying to prod for questions.
Yeah.
Whereas with James, I've not seen him go down that path. When Jamie Arbuckle was doing the Māori Wards referendums bill, he wasn't pushing for questions. I know Duncan did, which is quite unusual to see that happen. But I mean, I also wonder, I think that the first submitter, Murray, I think his goal was to say a statement like, whereas my one is, you work out what your allocation is, you allow half your allocation for your speech, and you allow the other half for questions. And I've got to the point where I just actually prompt them, okay, questions, please. And literally, basically, which catches a lot of them off guard because they're not quite ready to actually say the question.
Yeah, I know I've got 10 minutes. I reckon 4 minutes is going to be taken by me talking, and then the 6 minutes that I've got left will be questions. I think, though, just on your point about the difference between Duncan and James, it also shows a level not of maturity but of experience.
Yes.
I mean, Duncan's been in the house for a little bit longer than James has.
Yeah, Duncan's in his 7th year, whereas James is in his 1st.
Yeah. So, you know, I think it'll be interesting to see how James evolves. I mean, what you see in James is very much like young people who get on the pai and fly cordido, for example. It's a very cookie cutter version of what happened. Sorry if I'm slurring my words. This is still me recovering from my stroke. I don't want anyone to think I'm day drinking, although I am on my 3rd coffee. So yeah, I mean, it'll be interesting to see how this evolves. It's about seeing the evolution. The other one I've been watching, which has been interesting, on the main committee, is the ACT Member of Parliament. Is it Todd Stevens?
Yeah, Todd Stevenson. He's an oddball one. He's not like, of all the ACT people I've seen on select committees, he's the most mature. He's the most professional. He asks realistically reasonable questions. He doesn't do anything like what Simon Court did about the menstrual cup. While at the same time, Laura McCure proved why she was not suitable to be a chair when she threw a tantrum at a different point when there was a subcommittee way, and she said, "Can I put my hand up for chair?" And she got upset that the opposition didn't do it. And the one time that she was acting chair, she proved herself to not be up to the job.
That's yeah. I mean, I'm not going to say anything about menstrual cups, but oh my God, Jesus. Anyway.
Thanks for watching. Make sure you're subscribed to our Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, Instagram, TikTok, News Guide, the Order Paper Podcast. YouTube, Twitch, Instagram, TikTok, News Guide, the Order Paper